Two young men, Martin and Rudi, are on their way to the hospital for a checkup, unaware that life-altering news awaits them. In the hospital, after being tested, Martin receives devastating news from the doctor, who tells him that he has brain cancer. Unfortunately, it's too late to treat, and he has only a few days left to live. Rudi, after his checkups, also learns that he has an untreatable disease, bone sarcoma, and that he doesn't have much time left to live. He is also left heartbroken. They are assigned to the same room, where they get to know each other and start talking about their untreatable diseases and limited life expectancies. In the middle of their conversation, the cross on the wall falls onto the bedside table, opening it and revealing a bottle of tequila. Excited and surprised, they decide to celebrate and head to the kitchen to look for some snacks. Elsewhere, Frankie, a crime boss, orders his men Hank and Abdul to deliver his Mercedes-Benz classic roadster to a certain place safe and without a scratch. While on the road, a skater boy appears out of nowhere and they accidentally hit him. The angry boy complains that his leg hurts and insists on seeing a doctor, so they take him to the hospital. However, doctors refuse to let Abdul and Hank leave and tell them that they are in trouble. As they are already late and running out of patience, they begin to threaten the doctors by pulling out their guns and make their way out. Meanwhile, in the hospital kitchen, Martin and Rudi are discussing their final days and unfulfilled dreams. Martin finds out that Rudi has never seen the ocean. So he describes the ocean to Rudi, then tells him that in heaven, all they talk about is the beauty of the ocean. Then they make a decision to go for their last mission, to see the ocean together. Drunk and still in their pajamas, they head to the hospital parking garage to find a vehicle, and they come across a brand new Mercedes and are surprised to find that the doors are not locked. They even find the keys without any effort. Eventually, they rush out of the parking area and start driving towards their goal. In the meantime, when Hank and Abdul finally arrive at the parking area, they realize that their car has been stolen. Next morning, Rudi wakes up to find that they've stopped at a riverbank and sees Martin shooting a pistol that he found in the car. Rudi tells Martin that he was drunk and now he has changed his mind and wants to go back. However, Martin encourages Rudi by reminding him of the importance of their dream, telling him that it's silly to let fear hold them back. Elsewhere, the crime boss Frankie is furious after hearing that his car was stolen, and he beats up Hank and Abdul before giving them another chance and tasking them with returning his car along with the hijackers who stole it. Martin and Rudi pull up at a gas station to fill up their car, but realizing they don't have the money to pay for the gas, Martin resorts to robbing the gas station with the pistol he found and is nearly caught by a police officer during the process. Later, still in their pajamas, they arrive at a clothes shop to buy themselves suits. However, after realizing they are a little short on cash, Martin gives the money he took from the gas station to the shop assistant and assures her that he will bring the rest very soon, then runs out of the shop. He checks his surroundings and gives his cigar to a little girl, then heads towards a bank across the street. Upon arriving, he begins robbing the bank without any hesitation, even taking a moment to introduce himself to the security camera before making off with 80,000 marks. After his successful robbery, he returns to the suit shop and generously pays the shop assistant before hastily leaving with Rudi. Happy with their new suits and successful shopping trip, they continue their journey, counting the money Martin took from the bank along the way. Rudi, caught up in the excitement, decides to try smoking for the first time. Meanwhile, in the police department, detectives begin to uncover information about Martin and initiate investigations into the gas station and bank robberies. Martin, while driving, suddenly experiences a seizure due to his cancer. He quickly pulls over, then desperately reaches for his pills to recover. After his recovery, they decide to rest for a while on the side of the road. While there, they casually check the trunk and stumble upon a suitcase filled with 1,000,000 marks. Extremely happy with their discovery and sudden wealth, they arrive at a luxury hotel and are amazed by the look of their room. Feeling generous, they tip the bellboy, which cheers him up so much that he quits his job on the spot. They have fun and enjoy their time in the hotel, ordering the most expensive meals and drinks. They also decide to write down their dreams on paper and randomly choose one from each other's list. Rudi learns that Martin's dream is to buy his mother a pink Cadillac, similar to the one Elvis Presley gifted to his mother. Meanwhile, Martin discovers that Rudi dreams of sleeping with two women at the same time and starts making fun of him. In the middle of their conversation, Martin suddenly experiences another seizure. In panic, Rudi rushes in to help him and gives him his pills. In the morning, Rudi wakes up and sees police swarming into their hotel from the balcony. He quickly wakes Martin and they hurry out of their room but run into two police officers in the hallway. With no other options left, Martin quickly takes Rudi hostage, leaving the officers confused, causing them to give up their weapons. Eventually, they tie up the police officers and put on their uniforms, then leave the hotel pretending to be the police. But when they approach their car, they encounter Abdul and Hank, who mistake them for the police and inform them that the car actually belongs to them and was stolen. With no choice but to hand over the key to Hank, they proceed to steal another police car and drive away. The crime boss Frankie is initially happy to have his car back and is pleased with Hank and Abdul's achievement. However, upon discovering that his money in the trunk is missing, his joy turns into anger, and he starts to rage at Hank and Abdul. Confused, they insist they had no knowledge of the money in the trunk. Stranded on the side of the road with their broken-down police car, Martin and Rudi spot a man driving towards them and quickly bring him to a stop. Shortly after pretending to check his papers, they end up hijacking his vehicle and drive away. In the police department, detectives are busy investigating the ongoing crimes and learn about the stolen police car. Eventually, they arrive at the location only to find out that Martin has already hijacked another car. In the meantime, Martin and Rudi have already visited a suit shop and changed their clothes. While leaving, they come across a picture of the ocean. As they are staring at the picture, Martin experiences another seizure and collapses to the ground. Rudi, trying to help him, panics upon discovering that the pill bottle is empty, so he rushes to the closest drugstore. But the pharmacist refuses to sell him the medicine without a prescription despite the urgency of his situation. Desperate and helpless, Rudi pulls out his gun and shoots it into the air and eventually gets the pills. He runs back to Martin and gives him his pills, saving his life. However, it turns out the pharmacist has already called the police, and as they attempt to leave, they find the area blocked by the arriving police along with news reporters. So they take shelter in a local Turkish restaurant while they are broadcasted on live TV news and with the police surrounding the restaurant. After a while, they generously pay the owner and eventually come out. With Rudi pretending to be Martin's hostage, they immediately hijack a woman's car with reporters surrounding them, then quickly drive away. In the meantime, Frankie watches the news with Abdul and Hank and is furious to see them running around with his suitcase full of money. He then instructs Abdul and Hank to join forces with his other killers and sends them to eliminate Martin and Rudi. With a convoy of police cars chasing them as they race down the highway, Martin slams on the brakes after seeing that the road ahead is blocked by Frankie's gangsters. Eventually, they find themselves trapped in the middle of the highway by the police on one side and gangsters on the other, aiming their guns at each other. Soon after, Martin drives into the cornfield to escape, and the standoff between the cops and the gangsters escalates into a fierce shootout as the two desperately attempt to flee through the cornfield. After managing to escape, Martin approaches a police car and asks the officer to help him return the money he stole from both the gas station and the bank. Later, they arrive at a car dealership and make the taxi driver happy by paying him well, then proceed to fulfill Martin's dream of buying his mother a pink Cadillac, not caring about the price as they purchase the car. Later that night, they arrive at Martin's mother's house where he shares an emotional reunion with her, and gives her the car of her dreams. As Martin fulfills his wish, they are unexpectedly ambushed by the police who had been waiting for their arrival. Amidst the chaos, having another seizure, Martin collapses to the ground and loses consciousness this time. Rudi rushes in to help Martin and explains to the detectives that Martin suffers from brain cancer, and urges them to call an ambulance immediately. Eventually, Martin is placed into an ambulance with Rudi insisting on accompanying him. So one of the detectives also joins them. On their way to the hospital, Martin suddenly opens his eyes. It turns out he had pretended to have a seizure and they end up hijacking the ambulance. They continue their journey in the ambulance and arrive in the Netherlands. There, they visit a brothel to fulfill Rudi's wish, which is to sleep with two women at the same time. By coincidence, the brothel turns out to be owned by Frankie. While they are in the brothel choosing girls for themselves, they are spotted by Hank and Abdul, who also happen to be there. And they immediately inform Frankie about their presence. Eventually, while Rudi lies on the bed with two women, Frankie finally captures him, and they take him and Martin to a basement. Frankie asks them for the money, and in return promises that he will spare their lives. Hearing Frankie can let them live, Martin and Rudi can't help but burst into laughter, prompting everyone in the room to laugh with them. Frankie then gets serious and threatens to kill Martin, but Martin tells him that they've spent all the money, also reveals that he has brain cancer and is not afraid to die. Frustrated, Frankie then points his gun at Rudi and starts threatening to kill him, but Rudi also tells him that he is in the final stages of bone sarcoma and is going to die very soon. With no other choice, enraged Frankie then decides to kill them. Just as he is about to shoot, they hear footsteps of someone coming down to the basement. It turns out to be Curtis, the most influential mafia boss to whom the money was intended to be delivered. He tells Martin and Rudi that he heard about their terminal conditions from the news, and asks them if they have a plan. So they tell him about their dream and that they were heading to the ocean as they have never seen one before. After a short talk, Curtis spares their lives and lets them go by telling them that they better run before they run out of time. He then goes on talking about that in heaven, all they talk about is the beauty of the ocean. After their long and difficult journey, Martin and Rudi finally reach the shores of the ocean. They walk to the sandy beach, where they watch the waves without uttering a single word, sharing the last moments of their lives together as they stare at the beautiful expanse of the ocean. In the end, Martin, having his wish fulfilled, collapses to the ground and unfortunately passes away. After losing his friend, Rudi sits down beside him and gazes out over the beautiful ocean, watching the waves roll in.